We're here today in the Monroe garage to show you how to inspect your commercial vehicle for signs of worn shocks that may need to be replaced. You'll be providing a valuable service to your commercial truck customers if you inspect their shocks. We recommend inspections every 50,000 miles for on-pavement vehicles and every 10,000 miles for off-pavement vehicles. An inspection also should be completed whenever there's uneven tire wear or whenever services are performed on steering, frame, or suspension components. Keep in mind that good shock performance could reduce the potential for spring breakage, bent rims, tire damage or uneven wear, radiator damage, cargo damage, frame damage, damage to electronic control modules, damage to light filaments, broken cab mounts, and battery cracking. Good shock absorbers can dampen high-frequency vibrations, which can result in damage to these items and many other vehicle components. To begin, inspect for excessive oil leakage. A light film of oil covering the top third of the shock is normal and acceptable. If oil is leaking down the side of the shock or dripping off the bottom, it should be replaced. If a shock is completely dry and the rods are rusty, this indicates that there is little oil left in the unit and it also should be replaced. Inspect the shock mounting, bushings, cushions, sleeves, and hardware for damage. If any of the rubber cushions are cracked, worn, or split, these items should be replaced. Please be aware that in some cases, the entire shock may have to be replaced if the bushings are worn out. Let's now inspect the frame around the shock mount area for signs of wear or fatigue-type fractures. If any cracks are found, the damper should be inspected to determine if it is binding, excessively worn, or simply incorrect for the application. It's important to inspect the vehicle suspension stops on both compression and extension. These stops are typically rubber bumpers, but occasionally they may be made from steel. The compression bumpers are sometimes incorporated internally to the air springs. If the stops are damaged or missing, this indicates that the suspension is bottoming or topping excessively hard, which warrants spring and shock inspection. Now let's physically inspect the operation of the shock absorber by hand. Make sure to check all dampers, including cab shocks, steering stabilizers, and drop axle shocks if equipped. Start by disconnecting the shock's mounts and prime the unit by compressing and extending the shock 2 to 3 times by hand. While priming, make sure the damper is in the same orientation as if it were mounted on the vehicle. The shock should move smoothly in both directions. If it feels binding or gritty at any point, that indicates an internal problem and the shock should be replaced. If there are areas of low resistance or dead spots during travel, this indicates low fluid or internal valving issues. These types of issues also warrant replacement. After priming, if the unit is originally gas-charged and is warmed to room temperature, it should extend on its own. Keep in mind that it may take up to 2 minutes for some good shocks to extend, depending on how heavy the low-speed valving is and the amount of gas pressure the unit is designed with. If the shock does not extend on its own, this warrants replacement. Most gas-charged shocks will have a gas pressure warning on the outside of the reserve tube. For balanced braking and handling, each axle should have matching shock absorbers installed on it. Consequently, if one shock fails prematurely and it's being replaced with an identical part number to what's on the opposite side, both shocks do not need to be replaced. Prior to installing new shocks, the technician should prime the shock by compressing and extending it 2 to 3 times in a vertical orientation, the same way it would be mounted on the vehicle. Once the shock is fully primed, it should move smoothly in both directions without any areas containing dead spots. The new Monroe Gas Magnum 65 shock absorbers can now be installed on the vehicle. Remember to replace any worn hardware and to torque all mounting bolts to the factory recommended specification. A complete inspection checks critical interconnected system components that control steering, stopping, and stability. Going beyond typical items like tires and brakes, the complete inspection also could include shocks, torque rods, springs, tie rod ends, kingpins, and a host of other suspension and chassis parts. All of these components are vital to a driver's ability to avoid accidents. Just one worn part could diminish truck control and compromise safety. Monroe recommends a complete safety triangle inspection every time a commercial vehicle is brought in for tire, brake, or alignment service. Make sure to replace any worn-out components identified throughout this inspection. A well-maintained suspension, including the replacement of worn-out shock absorbers, can enhance vehicle control, enhance braking effectiveness, prevent premature tire wear, reduce driver fatigue, enhance driver comfort, and reduce unscheduled downtime. Many commercial fleets find it advantageous to include shock replacement as part of their preventative maintenance program, including replacement of worn shocks when a truck nears a shock's specified warranted mileage or if the unit carries a mileage-related replacement recommendation. Typically, this period is every 200 to 250,000 miles for on-pavement vehicles and every 50,000 miles for off-pavement vehicles. Replacement of worn-out shock absorbers may help to reduce damage to other vehicle components and also may reduce unscheduled downtime. See Monroe's Commercial Vehicle Preventative Maintenance video for additional details. That's it. You've successfully inspected the dampers on your customer's commercial vehicle. Remember to use high-quality Monroe commercial vehicle products for your replacement needs. Learn more at monroeheavyduty.com.